What's up, CW fans? We've got a pretty action-packed session here with N1MM, and I know this is a CW channel, but we are going to talk specifically about CW and how to set up some of the macros, as they call them, in CW or within N1MM for CW. A couple of things to note: when you have your N1MM setup, let's go to File and let's do a new log in the database. This is a very important aspect of getting things set up and making sure that it's correct. The one thing you want to make sure that you do is figure out what contest it is, and I'm just going to do the CQ Worldwide CW contest because that just happened as of this recording of this video. I'll set up, single op, all band, maybe low power because I don't have an amp. CW is obviously the mode, blah, 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 any of this other stuff. There's tons of videos on what each one of these things mean. But the important piece is this sent exchange. And that is going to be 4 for this contest. Sometimes if you are doing the sweepstakes contest, like for example, let's do a new log. We'll go in here and we'll go to, is it SSCW? Yes, it is. SSCW. It puts in what the exchange is going to be. And the exchange is actually a number followed by a letter, which is right here. And then the year you were first licensed, which for me it was 93, and the state that you reside in. So that's IN for Indiana. So make sure your sent exchange is correct in here for whatever contest you're using, because it's going to come into play a little bit later. If you don't do this, I'll talk about what happens if you don't put this in correctly. Not a huge deal, but something to think about, and I'll go over that in just a minute. So what I'm going to do, just for simplicity's sake, let's do complicated. We're going to do the sweepstakes CW contest, which has somewhat of an elaborate exchange to it. So I'm going to hit OK there. All right, I'm all set up for this. If you set yourself up for a sideband contest and you're trying to try your macros on CW, they're not going to quite work, because it's going to give you a little error message that says, hey, this is a sideband contest. What are you doing, right? So make sure that when you do set it up, it's a CW contest. We are doing the sweepstakes CW contest now. And this is what it looks like. You've got a bunch of buttons down here that have pre-programmed things. So when N1MM gets installed, you're going to get some of the default things that happen here. And I wanted to point out that when you start out using N1MM, you're going to be in one of 2 modes. You're going to be either in run mode or search and pounce mode. So a lot of folks will be in search and pounce mode, especially folks that are interested in just kind of playing around and having fun. We'll click search and pounce. You'll see that a couple of these changed when you go back and forth. There you go. You can see a couple of little differences there. So if we do run, we've got a couple of things. So this first one we'll call CQ. Second one we'll throw in the exchange. The third one we'll call thank you. So this is kind of like the cadence of your exchange. So you're going to hit F1, you're going to call CQ and see if people will answer you. Hopefully somebody does. You're going to put in their call sign. So it will be this person right here, and then I'll hit the space bar and it'll pop me over to the right hand side so I can put in their exchange information. So when that person calls me, I type in K9PG, and then what I'll do is I will press F2 to send him the exchange. He will then send me the exchange, which will be a number of some sort. So let's say I'm QSO number 10 and he's running QRP. So I'll put that in there. and then I'll hit enter, and then I'll hit F3, and it'll say thank you. So how does it know what the exchange is, and how does it know when you call CQ to call CQ with your call sign? Well, that's a good idea, or that's a good question. What you need to do is right-click anywhere around here. Just grab one of these, just hit right-click, and it's going to pop up with a menu. You can see all of the stuff here. It might look like it's complicated, but it won't be as soon as I tell you all about what's in here. So if you recall, we've got two different modes. We've got a run mode, and we have a search and pounce mode. And depending on what mode we are operating in N1MM, and you want to make sure that you're in the right mode, because when you're calling CQ, some of this stuff is different. And when you're in search and pounce mode, the stuff is different. So let's look at what our run mode looks like and what the different F keys or the function keys or the macros look like for each one of these. So in the beginning, right before the comma, that is the label of the little button. See the little F1 button right over here? It says CQ. And, you know, I think I like the letter CQ both capitalized. So let's hit save. And you can kind of see that CQ is capitalized now. All good. Everything's cool. Now, after the comma is going to be what is sent to your rig. And what is sent is CQ SS, which is pretty common for calling CQ during sweepstakes. So CQ SS and then my call. Wait a second here. How does it know what my call is? Well, let's get out of here a second. It's going to configure your station data. My goodness, what is this at the top? That is your call. So this is what it's going to be pulling from to get your call sign. So let's right click and go back there again. So we've got CQ SS my call. You can absolutely get rid of that junk and just say, all right, this is what I want it to say. CQ SS K9KJ. Boom. There's no ambiguity here. It's beautiful. I can do it this way. There's no problem. If you are kind of like going between call signs and stuff like that, and you'd rather not have to change all of these things every time you're using maybe a club call or whatever, yeah, keep the my call piece in there, because then you don't have to change all of these where it says my call. So do whatever you like on that. So that's the CQ F1. Now the other one, the next one, is F2, which is the exchange. So when that person calls me, it's like, you know, K9XY or W9XY, a good friend of mine, W9XY. He's like, all right, cool. W9XY, this is me, and here's my exchange. This is what the exchange looks like. And here are some secret macro things. This exclamation point is going to send whatever is in this call window here. So if I put in W9XY and hit the space bar, or even if I don't hit the space bar, when you hit F2, it's going to send W9XY and then a space. Then it's going to send the QSO number. That's what that pound means. And that QSO number is right here. So W9XY is my number 2 QSO. So it's going to say W9XY, your 2A, K9KJ, 93, Indiana. And he's going to come back and say, okay, cool. You are number 264 Alpha. No, he runs power. So he's going to be 264 Bravo, W9XY, 76, Wisconsin. And that's kind of how that goes down. And then I'm going to say F3, TU, which is thank you, and then I'm going to send my call sign. Sometimes I will do thank you, QRZ, there's my call sign. But, you know, when you're running really fast, you want to do as little as possible. So sometimes just TU, K9KJ, and then people will come back to you. So that's how that works. You can use these macros in any part. So I've got the word my call on the left side of the comma. Well, what does that mean? That means that's the label, right? So K9KJ is the label, and it's going to send my call. So if somebody's like, call question mark, they didn't get my call, or something wasn't working right, I'll hit F4 so that they can get my call sign correctly. They should probably just wait until I call CQ again, so then they can get my call sign, but that's all good. Then you can kind of see his call. It should be actually his or her call, and the exclamation point, again, is whatever call sign is in the call sign box here. A couple of other things, section question mark, again question mark. I just like to do question mark. Can you tell me your number? Can you tell me your precedence? What is your check? That kind of thing. So that's kind of how I have that rolling for when I'm running. So basically, F1 starts the CQ cycle. When somebody calls me, I put in their information. Then I hit F2. When they give me their information, then I hit F3. Then we start the cycle all over again. F1, F2, F3, F1, F2, F3. So not too complicated on what some of this stuff is. If I'm doing search and pounce, that stuff is down here. What I'll do is, we're scanning the band, right? We're trying to figure out who we want to work, and then we come across somebody like this guy, and he's calling CQ, and I'm like, oh, cool, I want to get this person. What are you going to do? You want to throw out your call sign. So you throw out F4, all right? F4 is going to be my call sign. So boom, F4. He's going to come back, and he's going to give you a bunch of information. You're 23 Alpha, K9TI, 92 Indiana. All right, cool. Then I'm going to hit F2, and it's going to say NR3, right? That pound signifies whatever's in this box right here. So NR3A, K9KJ, 93 Indiana. Boom, beautiful, right? What you could do, and this is why I wanted to make sure that everybody knew in the very beginning of this, we talked about setting up the contest and making sure the exchange is right. You could do this. So you don't have to modify this for every single contest. As long as you put in the contest information correctly when you set up the contest in the very beginning, you should be able to do NR3, and then it'll go Alpha K9KJ 93 Indiana, right? So some people put the NR on there, some people don't put the NR, and the reason why is you should be expecting a number on the exchange, but because of the rapid fire exchanges of contacts, sometimes people like to put UR number 3 alpha. So some people put NR3 alpha. And then, yeah, that's it really. I've got a thank you here set up where I send the person's call sign and say thank you. Every once in a while, it's like number F6 is blank. I'll do FRND, which if I come across a friend of mine, I'll do let's say K9TI for example. Also K9TI TU 73 dit. So an E is a dit, right? Dit. Another thing you could do is you want to do quick dit. If you put this is a tilde character, right? It's right above the tab button. You can put that in there, and what that does is it gives a shortened space. So it's not a full space, or you can just do dit like that. So there's a couple of things you can do there. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That kind of gives us basically what we need to get all of our macros set up. The key is making sure that you're in the right configuration. If you're running, you want to be in run. If you're in search and pounce, you want to search and pounce. If you have this set up to a radio, like for example, if I'm on run and I start to spin the VFO dial like this, I just spun it on my FT101, you'll see that it actually switched over to S&P for me, because it's like, hey, dummy, you're in search and pounce mode because you're spinning the VFO dial. So I'm going to switch over to S&P mode. That can get people into trouble, because let's say I'm calling CQ. I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to change frequency. Somebody's like really screwing around with me, or they're like really close, they're not hearing me, and they're like, jumping all over me. You know what? I'm going to move frequencies. So I move frequencies, I come down a little bit, and then I hit F1. Well, guess what's going to happen? I'm not going to be in run mode until I hit F1. And then it puts me in run mode, and now I've got, then I've got my macros all set up here. So N1MM is trying to be smart, and most of the time it is, but sometimes it can leave you a little bit in a lurch. But most of the time, things work out pretty good. But yeah, if you start spinning the VFO dial, boom, all of a sudden you just switched over to search and pounce macros. So if you're like, oh wait, you know what? Let me put in my call sign. Maybe I'll use the paddle or whatever, and then I go to use the macros. Like, F2 is going to be a little bit weird because I'm in search and pounce mode instead of run mode. Let's see here. What else? I think that should be about it. So if we just kind of simulate a QSO here, let's just say, let's go in run mode and let's call CQ. So there you go. And I'm going to bring it down to 18 words a minute. And you'll notice that there's this little circle thing here. And I'm not pressing any buttons, because I wound up going to config and hit CQ repeat. But before you do that, make sure you set your CQ repeat time. It's in milliseconds, so or seconds. I guess they did change it. So you can do 3 seconds between. Give us 3-second pause between your CQs. Then you go down to config and hit CQ repeat. So when you hit CQ, it's just going to repeat. I don't know who K9ABC is. Well, actually, let's do somebody for real, like N4 baked potato, right? So, whoops, N4BP just called me, right? That's like way too fast. Hang on. Okay, N4BP. P, not PB. BP. All right, cool. N4BP. I typed in N4BP. All right, cool. So it's in the exchange, then N4BP is going to go. So that would be 4A. S. So I'll hit that, and I'll say F3. And that's how that works. So let's do another one, because I kind of screwed that up. I'm like trying to use this paddle that's way off to the side here. All right, let me reposition that. So yeah, let's do another person. Let's do the famous Craig. K9CT calls me. I'm like, oh wow, cool. Hit spacebar, and then I hit F2. Actually, let's back that up. All right, let's call CQ. All right. CT. All right, I'm going to press the space bar and hit F2. All right, cool. And then Craig comes back and says, you're so that's 59A. Well, 67, Illinois. I'll log it and I'll hit F3, which is thank you. And we'll be waiting for another person. And then we'll hit F1 again to do some stuff. Now let's say we are cruising around. All right, cool. We're in search and pounce mode because we just moved the VFO dial. And I'm like, oh, I hear somebody calling CQ. CQ. Oh, somebody's calling CQ. Let's see. Who could we use here? I don't know. Somebody that does sweepstakes. AA3B, I think, does for sure. So, all right, I hear him calling CQ. All right, good. So what I'm going to do, so he's going, here, let's pretend we're AA3B. So then what I'll do is I'll throw my call sign, which is F4. So he's going to go. So 3A. Oh. AA3B. 70. EPA. Then I'll say, all right, cool. And I can actually log that right now. And if I hit F2 for the exchange, 5A, K9, KJ, Indy. Whoa, that didn't sound right. So if I hit F2, ooh, it's something's weird there. It didn't put in the whole thing. Number 3. And that's a good example of how this exchange isn't right, because and this is a good example of how things could be screwed up, because the exchange needs to be, by sweepstakes rules, you have to send your call sign as part of the exchange. So it's got to be A, K9KJ, 93, Indiana. That's how it's got to be. So let's do this again. So he's calling CQ. Then I called him. He gave me a number. Let's just say he gave me 25 Alpha or 25 Bravo, and I could log it as long as you got that. And then I have to give him my exchange. So I'll hit F2. Cool. Then he's going to come back with there you go. So that's kind of how that works. That's how the exchange works, and that's how the flow works for a CW contest in N1MM. There are a number of macros and a number of different things that you can do for setting up the different macros, and there is a whole list in the N1MM manual of all the things that you can do. If you don't feel comfortable with some of these macros within the function keys, you can absolutely do this. You can do K9KJ. You can just redo all of these so that they are your call sign. And of course, customize some of that stuff if you want to have some fun with it. But yeah, that's how that works. Make sure you hit save, and make sure you are in the correct sequence here, whether you're in run or search and pounce. Also, if you use N1MM and you are running and calling CQ, If you want to slow down for some of the folks, which I always slow down for people that are a little bit on the slower side because I think it's courteous, get used to using the page up and page down keys on your keyboard. If you hit page up or page down, you'll see that it increments or decreases by 2 words a minute. So if you're running at 26 words a minute and you hear somebody coming in pretty slow, I always hit the page down twice. So it'll at least get me down to 22 words a minute. And I think that's a courteous thing to do. So, all right, everybody, have fun with N1MM. I know it could be a brain buster sometimes, depending on whether things are working or not. There's a lot to N1MM, and I just showed you the bare minimums and the basics. So go ahead and jump in the manual. There's a bunch of information. Hopefully this is helpful to at least get you moving using the CW macros. This is kind of a complimentary video to the AA0Z video where he covered the sideband macros, which I don't even know what SSB means. I think it's super sideband or something. I don't know. I only do CW, so this is the CW channel. Anyways, CW on, my friends. Have a good one, and we'll see you on the bands.